Dom, this is a very English day here in Newcastle, but have you gotten used to calling Australia home?
Yeah, 100%, mate.
Is this what you expected Australia to be like? Did anything surprise you?
It's funny because I didn't really know what to expect of Australia. I hadn't really heard much about it, to be honest with you. I didn't really know what Australia was like, but it's probably exceeded my expectations. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. I probably thought I'd miss home a little bit more, but yeah, I love it here, and yeah, I don't know if I'll be going home anytime soon.
I was going to say, could you see yourself staying here post-football?
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably too early to say, but yeah, I don't see myself going back to English winter. I don't know if I could maybe try and spend some time here, spend some time there, but yeah, I don't know, maybe if I meet someone here.
Give him a call, girls. Turn my phone on silent. Well, Dom, I want to ask about your heritage and your background. How did your Jamaican grandparents end up in the north of England?
They just kind of came over to England for a bit more opportunity in Jamaica. They kind of had it a bit tough there, so yeah, it means a lot to me when I speak to my grandparents about where they came from, and you know that definitely inspires me, and I can take a lot, you know, from their journey, and that's what I try and do every day. You know, I represent them, and I also represent my mum's family as well.
What was it like mixing those cultures at home, an English background, Jamaican background, when you were growing up, to have that kind of unique story?
Yeah, it's pretty cool, mate. I always embrace both sides, and I love going to my Jamaican grandparents. You know, they always cooked me the best food and had the best stories. So yeah, I loved it growing up, and yeah, I really embraced that.
Is that where the genetics come from? Obviously, there's some great athletic genes in that tiny little island.
Yeah, well, my mum tries claiming some credit for the genes as well, but yeah, I think them Jamaican genes are pretty strong, and yeah, I'm glad that I managed to get them.
When did you start to think about the NRL?
Growing up, I never really thought too hard about the NRL. I always you seen the trend of English players kind of establishing themselves in Super League and then maybe coming out, but after I played for England under 16s, that's when I kind of started clocking on the NRL radars, and it was a bit weird to me, just kind of thinking, how am I getting this interest from the other side of the world?
Yeah, I watched him play in a county match. It was an under-18s game, and he was playing right centre. And yeah, I'm smiling now, but I remember watching the game, and it completely blew me away. Just his speed, power, close to the line, he was unstoppable.
You know, that was when I kind of seen that opportunity, and I knew it was something that I wanted to do when I spoke to more clubs about it. And I've always wanted to test myself in the best environments, and I knew getting over here as soon as possible was probably the best thing for me.
Was there an inspiration or a player that you saw do it that you thought, oh, you know, I can emulate that?
Growing up, I used to watch people like John Bateman, the Burgess boys. I used to look up to them. I was huge fans of them, with them playing for Bradford. You know, Elliot Whitehead as well was one. And then when I see them, obviously coming from Bradford and then playing over in the NRL and doing well as well, I guess that kind of did stay in my mind a bit, and I did think, yeah, that's pretty cool, and I'd like to be like them.
You're 17, right? A lot of these guys go and do it later in life, or maybe when they're a bit more established. But you've played 2 Super League games. You're 17, probably 18 years old at this point.
Yeah.
Why take that risk? Why so early?
Yeah, it was definitely a big risk for me, but I just felt I was at a stage in my life where I needed that push out of my comfort zone. I think when I was at Huddersfield, I was always real comfortable, and I was living at home. I had everything I needed to have, and I'm the kind of person where I need that little push, and I don't think you can get a much bigger one than moving to Australia. And yeah, like I said, ever since I've come out here, I've never really looked back. You
were self-aware enough to know that you wanted to get out of your comfort zone. Like, that's pretty advanced for only a kid that's only 17 to be that aware of his own kind of happenings in his own mind. So why were you like that?
My family have always pushed me to be the best version of myself, and they've always been really ambitious people themselves, and me looking up to them, I kind of wanted to follow in their footsteps a bit. You know, whenever there's been a challenge in their life, they've always taken it head on, and I just thought the opportunity I got was too good to turn down. I just had that feeling that it was going to pay off if I just backed myself and put everything into it, and that's what I did, and yeah, I've never looked back.
English forwards have been very successful here.
Yeah.
English outside backs have probably struggled a bit more over the years. Why did you think that you could come here and make an impact?
I've always believed in my ability as a player, and failure for me is not really an option. I've never really thought about that. I've never gone into something thinking about, you know, the issues or the problems that might happen. I've always thought about the positives that will come from it. And I think that was probably another reason why I did come out earlier. You know, when you look at a lot of the English outside backs that have struggled, they've probably came out a bit later in their career, so.
But you could have come even earlier, right? Like there was other clubs, the Melbourne Storm were the first club to reach out to you?
Yeah, I could have came, you know, even probably a couple of years earlier, maybe a year earlier, but I got a little injury back home, and I just felt like I needed that extra year of maturity, and I wasn't quite ready to leave my family yet. I wanted to make the move when, on my terms. I didn't really want to be pushed into it.
Do you have many doubters? Did people tell you that this was too big a leap? And
yeah, 100%. I think obviously when I've signed, no one really knows me over here, and as you said earlier, with English outside back struggling, there was definitely people that were doubting me, even people from back home. I'd only played 2 Super League games, so like, why is this kid getting, you know, this opportunity? But that just fueled me, really, to be honest. I've always had that in me where if someone's doubting me, I just want to prove them wrong.
I was nervous, mate. I was really nervous. I'd go to training, and I'd just watch them training. I'd be doing something. I'd be like a little kid watching it, going, "Oh, wow, how good's this?" And then you do something bad, and I'd be just like in the dumps. It was like a roller coaster. It was such a wave of emotion, but the good was unbelievable. Just next level. Like your top elite players can only do those types of things.
how'd you go living in Alex McKinnon's granny flat when you first got here?
Nah, it was good. Me and Alex had a great relationship. He did a lot for me, obviously bringing me over. But I guess it was tough because I've moved to Newcastle. I don't know anyone. You know, I'm living in his granny flat. I'm trying to meet everything, process everything what's going on. But it was really good that I could stay there. I can't thank Alex enough for what he's done for me at the start of my career.
Oh, I remember the first day he turned up, and I opened the front door, and he was wearing a Aaron Rodgers Green Bay Packers jersey. Mate, he looked like Sonny Bill Williams. It was like I'd just seen my first crush, but mate, I couldn't believe how big he was. And then he walked in, and my family was here. My old man was at the back, and he's going, "Holy shit!" Like, yeah, it was pretty funny.
How much time did it take to feel adjusted, do you think?
Yeah, it took a bit of time just to get used to the Aussies as well. The Aussie banter's a bit different to the UK. UK banter, I don't know if people really got me at the start.
When you say the banter's a bit different, they're giving it to you a bit and you didn't understand what was going on?
I can take it. I like giving the banter out. I think the Aussies are just a bit dry sometimes, maybe, I don't know, and they don't really get the sarcasm of the English, but it was only like that initially, like, you know, initially I was a bit like, oh, I don't know about these Aussies, but they warmed up to me in the end.
You've grown to like us now.
Yeah, I like, you know, and I'm copying the Aussies a bit now, which I try and stop myself from doing because I don't like doing that.
Well, what do you mean copying?
Just a few little things that the Aussies do that I find myself doing, and when I go back home to England, and my mum's always picking up on it, and my friends are like, "What's this mean? Or why are you saying it like that?" The
accent's still intact. You're all right.
Well, yeah, I think it is, but then my mum still tries saying I sound a bit like Aussie, so I don't know.
What about for your parents? Did you get a bit emotional when your parents came here to watch you play for Newcastle for the first time?
Yeah, definitely. My parents have always been a massive support system for me, so they used to go and watch all my games, you know, when I played back home. So I remember when I played the Tigers last year, and they were there at the game in Sydney, and it was at Campbelltown. It's pretty close to this pitch. I was just warming up, and I seen my mum shouting "Dom, Dom." Yeah, it means a lot knowing that they were there, and they were there supporting me.
Is that the most kind of homesickness you've had to deal with? Is that probably the worst it got, or has there been worse times?
I think my first year was probably the hardest. Obviously, I was living at home, back home. You know, my mum kind of did everything for me. My parents were always there, and just it's not necessarily being away from your family that's the hardest thing. It's just the feeling that you're so far away from them. It's not like you can just go and see them when you want to. That when that really sinks in, it does make things difficult.
Let's talk about your first season, because as you said, you felt like you struggled a little bit. What was the hardest thing to get used to about the NRL?
Yeah, I think just obviously the lack of games that I'd played over the past few years going into that season. You know, it was COVID, obviously. Back home in England, I'd only played two Super League games in the 2 years. I probably played a handful of games in that 2 years as well, with COVID kind of cancelling through you know, a lot of the younger competitions. So I just hadn't played a lot of footy, and it was my first pre-season. I wasn't in the best shape that I'm in when I look back now compared to, you know, what I've been in the past couple of years. So I think that coupled with, you know, just the speed of the NRL and just getting my head around all the little things, parts to the game that I'd never really been taught before. That's obviously what made it hard. So yeah.
Did you have a moment where you're like, oh Jesus, this is intense?
Yeah, I think in the first season when I was playing the Roosters and I found myself sat on the bench, I was like, yeah, I don't think wingers are supposed to get subbed off. That was probably a tough moment for me, getting hooked. But yeah, look, when I look back on it, it's all part of the journey. And like I said before, them difficult moments and them people doubting me is just what adds fuel to the fire for me. And I knew I had a point to prove in that second year, and yeah, I've never looked back since.
Milford, Young with a bit of space, Young with a chance, Young gets there!
What was the biggest thing you worked on after that first year in your football to come out and play the way you did in 2022 and now in 2023?
Yeah, I think just that pre-season I really attacked it. I kind of had that spring in my step where I didn't want to lose anything. I just wanted to compete on everything, and I wanted to be the fittest player. I wanted to be the fittest outside back, and off the back of what I'd learned in the first year, you know, I'd picked up things, and I just felt really primed in that second year to really kick on. And yeah, I was just really hungry. I knew that it was kind of a make or break for me. At that age, I wanted to be a regular NRL player. I wasn't happy. I wasn't just content playing here and there. So yeah, I really attacked it. I was really hungry, and I kind of just carried that on the whole year.
Ponga fangs it right. Clifford does the same. Frizzell to Gagai. Gagai to Young. Young has scored for Newcastle. What a day Dominic Young is having.
What a finish.
He's from Huddersfield, you know.
When did you start to feel comfortable out there?
That round one game was a massive confidence boost for me. You know, we started off pretty well beating the Roosters. I think I grabbed the try and played pretty well, and then I think kind of in the middle of the season, when I was looking back, that's kind of when it sunk in. You know, I'm an NRL player, and I don't really want to be going anywhere anytime soon.
Was that a kind of pinch yourself moment, like I've made it here now after kind of everything?
Yeah, it was a little bit, but you know, having the family I have, they're always reminding me not to get ahead of myself too much. You look at the NRL and what can happen and how fast things can change. So, even though I was going well, I was always grounded, and I knew there'd be challenges ahead of me.